Here's an explanation for another one of the official GRE questions you can now study with in the Magoosh GRE program. All right, so first thing we're going to notice about this question is that it is a 3 blank text completion. And just like any 3 blank text completion, that means that we have not 1, not 2, but 3 opportunities to miss this question. Kind of a bummer. However, that doesn't mean that we need to do anything different on this problem. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We're going to use the same strategy that we use on any GRE verbal question, which is to predict an answer in our own words. And that's going to help us get around the answer traps that are built into all GRE verbal questions. The only difference is that instead of making 1 prediction, we are going to make 3, 1 for each blank. So we're going to go ahead and jump on in with our first sentence. All right, starting with our first sentence. Now, this sentence doesn't have a blank in it, so we're going to go maybe a little faster through this one, but we're going to make sure that we get the context that we need. Okay, Castillo's apparently inexhaustible posthumous career is about to have a significant second act. The large number of books written by Castillo already available is soon to double. Okay. Stopping here. All right, so context. Castillo has written a lot of books. More books are coming out soon. Neat. Moving on to our second sentence. First word, while. Okay, now this is an important word, especially because we're in a sentence that has a blank in it. This word while indicates that there's going to be a switch in this sentence. So there's going to be a first part of the sentence that then is opposite or switches into the second part of the sentence. So we're going to be looking out for what this first part of the sentence is about, so then we can switch it going into the second half. All right. While this prospect is bound to thrill many readers. Okay, so thrill, that's a really exciting word. So this first part of the sentence, feeling really good. But then we get this comma right here, which says, okay, time for the switch. So we can now predict or guess that the second part of the sentence is going to be maybe a little bit less positive. We might blank our excitement. Okay, so in the first part of the sentence, we were thrilled, right? Really excited. And now we are doing something to our excitement that is going to be the opposite of thrilling. So maybe we want to limit our excitement or control our excitement. In some way, reduce our excitement. Okay, I'm going to read the rest of the sentence to kind of confirm this prediction. We are going to limit our excitement with the recognition that when it comes to publishing the dead, the best is not often saved for last. Okay, so this indicates these books that are coming out are maybe not going to be the best. That agrees with this idea of limiting our excitement. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and look at the answers for blank 1 and use that to kind of confirm that I'm on the right track with this question so far. And then once I'm through that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to blanks 2 and 3. So looking at blank 1, my answer choices are convey, temper, and amplify. So first I'm going to look at amplify because right away that's the one that kind of speaks to me as being the opposite of what I want. I don't want to amplify my excitement, make it bigger, make it greater. I want to limit it, bring it down. So this is not going to be a great answer choice. Then I also see convey. This is not a word that speaks either very positively or very negatively. It's kind of a neutral answer choice, meaning to communicate my excitement. Doesn't really make sense here. Not what we predicted. Not going to pick that one. The last answer here is temper. Now, temper is a word that has multiple meanings. We can temper chocolate. We can have a temper. But it can also mean to limit or bring down, reduce our expectations. And that aligns perfectly with our prediction. We're on track. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next sentence and blank number 2. Okay, given the remarkable blank of Castillo's publications to date. Okay, we see a comma, so we can go ahead and stop here. So we're looking for a word for our second blank that describes Castillo's publications to date, or the publications so far. So that does not include the books that are yet to come out. Well, what do we know about the books so far? Well, we know that the idea of more books is thrilling, to readers, right? So that speaks positively to the books that have come before. We also have this indication the best is not often saved for last. So maybe that's an indication that the best has already come. So again, we're maybe speaking positively toward books of the past. And maybe if we're not totally convinced that we're looking for a positive word, we might peek ahead in the sentence. And we'll see at the end the masterpieces we already know. So lining that up with to date, we're indicating that these past works are masterpieces. So we're looking for, again, just a really positive word. All right. So we are looking for a word like goodness, greatness, positiveness, right? So we are looking for a positive word describing these publications. All right, let's go ahead and peek at blank number 2 and see what's up. All right, looking at the answer choices for blank number 2, I'm noticing that they are maybe not as familiar as the ones from blank 1. Abstruseness, vacuity, and virtuosity. All right, so these are not words that I use in my day-to-day, but that doesn't mean that we need to miss the question because of them, because we can guess at the meaning of these words by looking at their roots and thinking about similar sounding words. So the first word that I'm drawn to is virtuosity, and the reason I'm drawn to it is because it starts with virtue. Right? So if we think about what's a virtue, well, a virtue is a positive trait or something that is good, right? It's a positive word. We might have even heard the word virtuoso, right? To describe like a really good violinist or someone who has a really advanced skill or a really advanced virtue, right? So I'm going, this sounds most likely like it is a positive word, a word describing the virtuousness or the greatness of something. So I quite like this answer. And if I didn't know anything about these other answer choices, that would be enough for me to pick it. Now, if you do know things about these other answer choices, this is going to be significantly simpler. So if we look at abstruseness, this is a word that's similar to obtuseness, right? It means difficult to understand. This is a negative word. So that's not going to be a great pick here. Vacuity is based on a similar root to vacuum. It's like emptiness. So vacuity is like empty-headedness, or empty of thought, right? So again, not something that would describe these publications in a favorable light, right? This is not a positive word. So again, not gonna be a great pick. Now, again, even if we didn't know those words, virtuosity is one that we can guess using words that may be more familiar. All right, blank 2, let's move on to blank 3. Okay, so picking up in the middle of this sentence, we go, it seems unlikely that any of the looming titles could blank the masterpieces we already know. Okay, so we are talking about how the looming titles are going to relate to these books that are so great, so virtuous. All right, so what have we said so far about these looming titles? We've said, hey, we should limit or temper our excitement. We shouldn't be too stoked on it. We're saying the best is not often saved for last. These books are not going to be the best. They are not going to be as great or virtuous as the books that have already come out, these masterpieces. So bringing that to this sentence, it seems unlikely that any of these looming titles could maybe be as good as the masterpieces we already know, right? We think it is likely they're going to be worse, so it is unlikely they're going to be as good as, unlikely they're going to be better. All right, so taking a look at the answer choices for blank number 3, we've got equal, outsell, and undermine. Let's take a look at those individually. All right, so equal, be as good as. Those are very, very similar answer choices, right? If we plug that in, it seems unlikely that any of the looming titles could equal the masterpieces we already know. So if it is unlikely to equal it, it is likely to be worse. This feels like a good pick for a prediction as well as for this question as a whole. So I like this one. I probably feel relatively confident picking it at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and look at the other ones just to be sure. So taking a look at outsell. Now, this one's kind of tricky. Maybe we'd predicted something like, it seems unlikely that any of the looming titles could be better than the masterpieces we already know, right? Which would be a totally solid prediction, right? We might go, yeah, they're going to be worse, so they're unlikely to be better. This works as a prediction. Then we might go, hey, outsell. That is a word that means going beyond something else, right? Being better than it. And we might go, hey, this is a good match for that prediction. However, this word outsell is very specific to selling, right? How many copies of this novel are purchased? And if we look at this sentence, it really doesn't have anything to do with how much it sells. It has to do with the quality of the writing. So we might go, ooh, actually, this is not a great match for that prediction. So even if we did have a slightly different prediction for this blank, we should be able to rule out this answer based on how specific it is to this idea of selling, not inherent virtue or quality or greatness. All right, and then this third answer choice is undermine, or to take away from something else, or to make something else worse or appear worse. And first we're going to notice that even if we had this prediction be better than, that undermine has kind of an additional connotation here. It's not just being better, it is taking away from something else. So first connotation of this answer is a little bit strange. We might also notice, hey, this is a book that's doing this to another book. So how is a book going to take something away from another book? That's adding maybe a little too much humanity, a little too much will and intention to a book. So we might go, okay, that's a couple of strikes against this answer choice. And with an answer like equal, which matches that prediction of be as good as so nicely and doesn't have any strange connotations or any strange intentionality or humanity to it, makes undermine not a great choice. So putting it all together, we should temper our excitement for the upcoming titles, because given the virtuosity of the previous titles, it is unlikely that these new ones will equal them in quality. All right, so takeaways on this question. 3 blanks means 3 predictions. These predictions are going to help us get through these answer choices and wade through the traps set for us. Similarly, when we're looking at answer choices, we're going to want to look at connotations and how those connotations compare to our predictions. So even if we don't know words, we can often tell if they are positive or negative, and that can be enough to pick the right answer or eliminate wrong answers, giving us an opportunity to get to the correct answer even if we don't know all of these words. Finally, even though we know how to attack these complicated 3 blank questions now, remember that they are still likely to take longer than other questions on the verbal section. So consider, if you're low on time, spending more time with other questions that are going to do the same thing for your score as this more complicated question will, and coming back to this one at the end of the section.